Do you ever feel like you're sleepwalking? Moving, talking, going through the motions, but something's missing. Something deep. Your heart feels numb, your eyes glassy. The world moves around you, but you're not really in it. A small, persistent itch sits in your chest, like a question you can't quite hear. You think back to the sandbox days, the stick forts. The world was an open field of play and possibility. Somewhere along the way, something got lost. I felt it too. I chased knowledge, truth, and meaning, whatever the hell that means. School, work, trying to be useful, trying to have value, trying to be something. But no matter how much I learned, no matter how much I did, there was always a hollow space. And in that space, a song. Not a song you sing, but a song you hear. The Dead One's song. It's the hum of empty pleasure, of hollow distraction, the doom-scrolling, weed-smoking, drinking, partying, the vapid socialization, the slow drift from community into individual isolation. Not enough to hurt, not enough to stop you, but just enough to keep you asleep. And that's the game, isn't it? To keep you numb and sleepwalking?
Today we dissect this lullaby and turn it into kindling. Join me in the loops of modernity, and welcome to Open Philosophy.
What if you could wake up? What if that ache in your chest wasn't a flaw, but a call? I've chased so many frameworks, each promising truth, each giving me just enough understanding to think that I had finally grasped something real. Like I was peeling back the layers of illusion, getting closer to the core. But every single time, the world would shift, and what once felt solid would turn to sand beneath my feet. I thought that meant I was failing, that I wasn't holding on hard enough, thinking deeply enough, building a strong enough framework, that I could just grasp the right thing. I'd finally found something real, something unshakable, but that wasn't the answer, and it never was. Because meaning isn't something that you grasp, it's something that you weave. And that weaving is constant, never finished, never still. And so let me sing that song to you. The Pull of the Dead One. The Dead One sings a song so sweet, a lullaby of love and heat. His voice like honey, thick and deep, fills the soil where dreamers sleep. Beneath it all, the truth lays bare. His song is not to heal but snare, to kill you slowly, soft and kind, to sew shut eyes, to chain the mind. Why not drink and be merry? Why not think and be wary? Rage and pleasure, his siren call, a serpent's hiss, a velvet thrall, the avarice reaper, his hands unseen, strings of gold on a guillotine. We gave up the opium and lit the new pyre, fentanyl smoke, a hungering fire, a world bent, consuming whole, a feast of bodies, a famine of soul. No being, no becoming, just haze, just waste, lost in the wreckage, seduced by the taste. And upon a wretched star we stare, you drop. Drift, drown, unaware. The whiskey years. I was lucky for a long time that I grew up in an environment that pushed away this song. My mother in particular pushed me to do all sorts of real activities. Bonding with animals, taking care of them, creating things, music, stories. The pull of the dead one happened first, I'd say, in my teenage years, when I had a phone and video games, and they became my entire life. I would play them until the wee hours of the morning. I probably spent a couple thousand hours on them, and yet I don't really remember any of it. I know I played certain games, I enjoyed some over the others, but at the very least, it was a kind of active feedback loop. I think it was actually kind of funny, because my first exposure to alcohol was, in a way, an act of creation. When I was 16, I wanted it really badly, and so I figured out how to make it. And I think that's interesting, that what once was an act of creation became an act of despair. But I would say it really took a hold of me when I was 18. I had left home and started working with racehorses. The backstretch of the racetrack was a deplorable environment because everything was right there. You could wake up early in the morning, go to work, get all your shit done, and then go grab a couple of beers and waste away the day, until the next day. And this embedded a pattern that started to pull me into the Dead One song. It was whiskey, the damned whiskey, and that took a hold of my heart. And it started to eat away at me very quickly. On top of that, my mind rationalized it, protected it, romanticized it, which, in hindsight, is the stupidest thing I've ever thought. But that's what our brains do. Once you get locked into a habit, we rationalize it away, make it seem like it's actually good for us. Maybe at some point, maybe it did give me a little bit of solace that I needed. Maybe it helped me deal with a particularly bad day. But ultimately, it's a lie, and a lie that gets bigger and bigger over time. But it's not just alcohol, it's other things too. Especially in this advanced digital age. We're making more and more powerful forms of dopamine-based media loops, whether it be porn, doom scrolling, or the constant 24-hour fear-mongering. All of these things are like demons, building feedback loops in your mind that trigger a response and keep you dull and reactive. One of these things I fell into, and don't let me give you any illusions, anyone can fall into this stuff. In fact, it's designed to work on the maximum amount of people. And I actually think that shame and guilt around these things are precisely part of the problem, the very thing that keeps you trapped. It keeps you listening to the Dead One song. Because shame doesn't free you, it binds you deeper. Thankfully, I got out of that physical environment that was really messing with my brain. I got a girlfriend, I went to school, I became an electronics engineer. But even as I was expanding my mind, I was still stuck in weekly cycles. My intelligence was blooming, but I was still caught in loops, and sometimes they would spiral harder than ever before. Near the end of my education, however, I realized something was missing, something deep inside, and I couldn't put words to it, not then. It took me years to find the words to describe what I was missing, and only now am I figuring out how to build it anew. When I woke up from the song, it wasn't some grand revelation, it was subtle. And funnily enough, it came from a drug, a little mushroom. It didn't tell me in words, it showed me. Made me feel what I was missing, and so I went searching. I delved into the history of philosophy, seeking answers. I went back into religion, trying to understand the spiritual past. I talked to mystics and manipulators, zealots and heathens, gurus and regular guys. I cast a wide net because I didn't know what I was looking for, not really. And somewhere along the way, not in some grand moment, but as a whisper, I woke up a little bit. I was able to look inside my own mind and see what it was doing. To observe all these thought patterns and loops, without judgment, without restraint, to just let them exist and not be captured by them. And it was in those moments that I discovered the Dead One song, and ever since, I've been trying to find my fires of creation. And I think that's enough poetic and personal narrative. I didn't come this far nor try this hard to be seen as a mystic, and I'm an engineer by training, an engineer I will. Part 1. The psychological and cognitive regularities. The first layer of the Dead One song is neurological. Your brain isn't built for constant, deep engagement with reality. It's wired for efficiency, to make quick, automatic decisions that conserve energy. Most of the time, this works in your favor. If you were to actively think about every step of tying your shoes, driving to work, or brushing your teeth, it would be exhausting. Instead, your brain automates these tasks, freeing up mental space for more important things. But this same efficiency becomes its trap. Most of your thoughts and behaviors aren't truly chosen. They are habitual loops, running on autopilot, shaping the way you live without you even realizing it. And the more unconscious they are, the more vulnerable you become to external forces shaping them for you. This is cognitive autopilot in action, the habit machine. You wake up and instinctively reach for your phone. Without thinking, you start scrolling through notifications, messages, the latest social media updates. But before you've even gotten out of bed, your mind is already in reactive mode, responding to stimulus rather than setting its own direction. Then comes the morning routine, the same breakfast, the same route to work, the same mindless responses to email, the same vague anxieties cycling in your head. Even the way you think about yourself, your relationships, your desires, these too are often just echoes of yesterday, or anxieties of the future. Have you ever driven home from work and realized once you arrive that you don't actually remember the drive? That's cognitive autopilot at work. Your brain didn't need to consciously think about the route because it's already traveled it so many times before. But this isn't about driving. The same mechanism applies to your beliefs, routines, interactions, and emotions. Once a behavior or thought pattern is ingrained, your brain defaults to it, even if it no longer serves you. And this is where the trap tightens. If you're not making conscious choices, something or someone else is making them for you. It isn't just that the behavior gets stuck on repeat. The way we process new information is just as rigid. People like to believe that we're rational, that when confronted with new evidence, they adjust their worldview accordingly. But the brain doesn't work that way. It never has. Changing core beliefs is painful. It feels like an attack on your very identity. And this is why people cling to outdated ideologies, defending them even in the face of overwhelming counter-evidence. Instead of challenging themselves, they rationalize. Somebody who's built their entire sense of self around a political or religious belief won't just let it go because they encountered a single contradictory fact. Instead, they will find ways to spin the new information, distort it, dismiss it, or ignore it altogether. Their mind protects what is familiar, even at the cost of truth, especially at the cost of truth. This is why people stay in bad relationships long after they realize they're toxic, why they rationalize addictions, why they surround themselves with media and voices that reinforce what they already believe. Comfort is a powerful drug, and familiarity is the most potent dose. When we stop questioning, we stop seeing reality as it is. And yet, even when we aren't consciously thinking about these things, our mind doesn't stop. It shifts into something called the default mode network, DMN. The background processes of the brain that activate when you're resting, daydreaming, or not focusing on an external task. This is part of the mind that replays old conversations, imagines different outcomes, reinforces identity-based narratives. It is the voice that says, I always mess up, I never get it right, this is just who I am. It's the endless replay of past anxieties or future worries. At first glance, this might seem useful. After all, self-reflection is important. But in practice, the DMN often becomes a trap, self-reinforcing an echo chamber that makes real change feel impossible. It is the mental equivalent of running in place. Ever had a moment where you catch yourself zoning out, only to realize that you're replaying an argument from years ago? Or that you've been lost in an anxiety loop about something that hasn't even happened yet? This is the DMN hijacking your awareness, pulling you into an unconscious mental loops, and instead of letting you engage with the present, it throws your attention somewhere else, to the past or to the future, to things that don't matter. And this is what most people call thinking. But in reality, they are simply following a pre-written script, one shaped by their past experiences, their culture, their environment, and their unconscious biases. The longer they go without examining that script, the more deeply it embeds itself, until eventually they're no longer choosing how to think, act, or live. They're simply running the program. They are asleep. 2. Social regularities. Cultural and ideological programming. The Dead One song isn't even just a personal cognitive patterns. It scales up. It extends beyond the individual and into society, culture, and ideology, shaping how people think, behave, and interact on a mass scale. If the first trap is neurological, the second trap is systemic. From the moment you are born, you inherit a pre-existing script for how life is supposed to go. It tells you what is normal, what is moral, what a success looks like. You're funneled into a default life path. Go to school, get good grades, find a stable job, get married, buy a house, have kids, work for decades, and then retire and hope you have saved enough money to enjoy it. For one, this path is never questioned. They assume that they're making their own choices, but in reality, they're simply moving through the pre-configured maze. But who wrote this script? Was it designed to maximize your happiness, to align with your own unique passions, skills, and desires? Or is it simply a conveyor belt meant to turn you into a functional, predictable worker-consumer? This isn't just about careers. It extends to morality, identity, and belief. What you consider right and wrong, and what you believe to be true. How much of it is actually yours? How much of it was installed before you even had the ability to think critically? Cultural conditioning is powerful because it doesn't feel like conditioning. It feels like reality. In the past, these social scripts were passed down through tradition, religion, and family expectations. Today, they are engineered into you by algorithms. The modern digital world doesn't prioritize truth, it prioritizes engagement. Your attention is a commodity, and the most valuable product being sold today is your predictability. Every interaction online is analyzed, tracked, and optimized. Social media platforms don't just show you information, they're studying your behavior, figuring out what keeps you engaged, and then feeding you more of it. You might start with a mild interest in a topic, fitness, self-improvement, politics, but slowly the algorithm pulls you deeper. Before you realize it, you've entered into an ideological bubble, where every voice around you reinforces the same ideas. And the scariest part? It feels organic. It feels like you have arrived at these conclusions yourself. But in reality, you are nudged, subtly, persistently, by a machine optimized to keep you hooked. This isn't just an accident. It's the foundation of the attention economy. The modern world is not designed to make you wise, free, or fulfilled. It's designed to keep you distracted, consuming, and passively engaged. An awake, critically thinking population is bad for business. Being spiritually enlightened is bad for business. Once you realize that this hole has been programmed into you in the center of your chest, you realize that all of this is a lie. It's all designed to keep you locked in. Short-form dopamine loops like TikTok, Instagram Reels, and the infinite scrolling trains your brain to crave constant novelty. Deep thinking, reflection, and engagement begins to feel exhausting by comparison. Why struggle through a long book or a difficult idea when you can get the rapid-fire flood of a stimulation in seconds? The more you consume, the harder it becomes to focus. The harder it becomes to focus, the easier you are to manipulate. The same mechanism powers the outrage economy as well. The news cycle isn't designed to inform you. It's designed to keep you addicted to fear and anger. Headlines are increasingly structured to provoke an emotional response, not to provide meaningful insight. It doesn't matter if you love something or hate it. As long as you keep engaging, that's all that matters. People believe they are freely choosing their environment, their information, their beliefs, but in reality, these choices are already pre-filtered by systems designed to keep them passive. And most people don't even notice. They just keep scrolling, keep consuming, keep filling the silence with distractions, never realizing that they're being conditioned into passivity. This is the final and most devastating truth. Most people believe that they are free, informed, and making their own choices. Well, the entire frame of those choices has already been chosen for them, as they passively exist within a carefully engineered thought loop. They're being fed a pre-scripted life path, trapped in ideological bubbles, hooked into the attention economy that keeps them numb and distracted. And yet, they believe they are awake. This is the true power of the Dead One song. It doesn't just control you, it convinces you that you're already free. If this is the trap, then breaking free means questioning the script. Who wrote the story that you're following? Does it truly align with what you want? Or is this just what you were told that you should want? It means disrupting the loop, deliberately seeking out perspectives that challenge your own, stepping away from short-form dopamine traps, and engaging in deeper, more meaningful work. It means taking control of your attention, treating it like it is your most valuable resource, because it is your most valuable resource. It is your time, your vital life force. Rather than allowing it to be stolen by forces that you don't even understand and don't have your best interests at your heart, you should grab onto it. Hold it, nurture it, breathe fire into the programming of your own mind, because if you don't, somebody else will.
So now the algorithm would like you to like and subscribe. How polite. Asking so nicely.
Part 3. The Dead One and the Cycle of Civilizations. The Dead Ones are not just an individual. They are a product of their environment. An inevitable figure that emerges when civilizations reach its peak and begin the slow descent into decay. They are comfortable, but hollow. With access to everything yet lacking meaning, their life is filled with distractions, pleasure, and novelty. But none of it satisfies them deeply. They believe they are awake, that they are making choices, that they are engaged with life, but in reality, they are merely a cog in the machine designed to keep them passive. They mock those who seek meaning, convinced that life is only about comfort and consumption. And the most terrifying part, the Dead One does not know that they are dead. Their world is full of stimulation, ease, and convenience, so that they assume that they're living. But spiritually, they're dead, comatose, detached from their own potential, enslaved by comfort. When enough people become dead ones, the civilization begins to crumble. This is not new. The Dead Ones have existed at every turning point in history, always appearing the same stage when civilizations reach their peak and begin their decline. This is not coincidence. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is a repeating cycle, observed across thousands of years. The rise and fall of civilizations. The pattern of decay. A civilization begins in struggle. It is young, driven, and hungry. It fights for survival, values discipline, work, sacrifice, and shared purpose. It is willing to endure hardship to build something greater. And at this stage, people are engaged, alive, and full of willpower. They have no time for decadence, only creation, expansion, and survival. Early Rome was built on civic duty, discipline, and service to the state. The Ottoman Empire was founded by warrior scholars who saw ambition and honored as virtues. At this stage, no one is sleepwalking. Everyone is engaged, active, and driven. And because of that, the civilization thrives. Over time, this struggle leads to stability and expansion. Wealth accumulates, the sciences, arts, and philosophy and culture, they all flourish. Hardships fade, and for the first time, the people can afford to prioritize some comfort. This is not inherently bad. It's a necessary stage of growth. But the same forces that make a civilization rich and powerful are also what makes its people soft and complacent and detached from reality. The golden age of Rome was filled with immense wealth, territory, and innovation, but also an emerging class that valued luxury over duty. The Ottoman Golden Age saw intellectual and technological advances, but also a ruling class that had lost its connection to struggle that built the empire in the first place. This is when the dead one begins to emerge. Not fully formed, not rising, people begin to choose comfort over growth, indulgence over effort, and once this happens, decay is inevitable. And when the decline sets in, the dead one fully takes over. The civilization that was once built by struggle and discipline becomes a playground for indulgence, distraction, and nihilism. People no longer create, they consume. Hardship is no longer endured, it is avoided at all costs. The very values that built the civilization, duty, ambition, and sacrifice, are now seen as oppressive, outdated, and foolish. Instead of leaders, warriors, and visionaries, the society is filled with bureaucrats, hedonists, and career politicians. Late Rome was corrupt, decadent, and obsessed with luxury. Gladiator games and endless feasts replaced civic duty and military discipline. The late Ottoman Empire was still rich, but internally rotting, its ruling class distracted by an entertainment and indulgence. At this stage, most people don't even realize that the collapse is incoming. They feel safe. They assume things will stay this way forever. And then, of course, reality punches them back. The collapse and rebirth, the final stage of the cycle. Every civilization reaches this stage of collapse. The dead men who once ruled it are incapable of saving it. They do not have the willpower or vision to fix the problem they created. A new force arises, either internally or externally, that wipes the slate clean. Rome fell to the Visigoths because it had grown too weak to defend itself. The Ottoman Empire collapsed because it could no longer adapt to a changing world. And every time, history repeats itself. A new civilization rises from the ruins of the old and the cycle begins again. And now we ask, where are we in this cycle? Look around. Are we building, struggling, innovating? Or are we distracted, entertained, and numbed by hyperstimulation? Are we growing stronger, or are we falling asleep? The dead one is here. And if history repeats itself, then collapse is not a possibility, but it is an inevitability. Look around us. War, climate change, disasters. They're coming for us. We know it's coming for us. And yet, we're moving forward with our eyes wide shut. Don't look up. Look down. Bend your neck. Pray to the digital gods. They have you. They have your comfort. What else could you need but their comfort? Unless something wakes people up before it's too late. And that something could be you. 4. The way out. Integration. The Dead One's song is everywhere, pulling people into a passive existence, lulling them into thinking that they are awake while they drift. But once you hear it, once you truly see the patterns, you can't unsee them. And once you see, the question becomes, how do you wake up? Waking up isn't a single moment. It's not a grand revelation or a one-time event. It's a process, a loop that repeats over and over, and that loop is simple but relentless. Awareness, to see around you, to understand what's going on. Action, to do something, to change something. Reflection, to understand what you did, where it went wrong, and how to adapt. And finally, adaptation. Integrate what you learned, try again, start from the beginning, become aware, act, reflect, adapt. This isn't just a concept, it's a tool. It's a weapon against passivity. And the best part, you don't even need permission to use it. You can just do it. And I'm giving it to you for free. Step 1, awareness. See the construct. Everything starts with awareness. Before you can change anything, you have to see it. That means learning to observe not just the world around you, but yourself. Where do you run on autopilot? What loops are you running in your head that aren't truly yours? What habits, beliefs, and reactions feel like choices, but when you dig deeper, you realize they are given to you? This isn't about judgment. It's not about shame. It's about noticing. Most people don't even realize that they're moving through a pre-written script, one shaped by culture, ideology, and systems that thrive on keeping them asleep. But once you see it, you create space between the pattern and your reaction. And that space, that is where freedom begins. Action. Break the pattern. Awareness is useless without action. Once you see the loop, you have a choice. Stay inside it, or disrupt it. And the disruption doesn't have to be massive. It's not some moment where you all of a sudden realize these things and change every pattern in your life, because that's only going to lead to burnout. It can be small. A single, intentional action that shifts the pattern. You realize that you check your phone first thing in the morning, put it across the room. You feel numb, scrolling endlessly? Turn it off, walk outside, breathe. You catch yourself reacting in the same way in an argument, repeating old cycles. Pause, ask, is this actually me or is it just a habit? Breaking the loop is simple, but it's not easy. The song will try to pull you back because loops crave completion. Because every time you try to interrupt it, you weaken it. And when you replace it with something intentional, you take back control. Reflection. Learn from the friction. When you push against an old pattern, it will push back. This discomfort, the resistance, that's data. It tells you where the pull is strongest, where the chains are tightest. Most people mistake this for failure. They try to change, they hit resistance and assume that they're incapable. But that friction is the process. The only real failure is not paying attention to what it's telling you. You ask yourself, what worked, what didn't? What part of the loop fought back the hardest? And most importantly, what does that tell me about what still has power over me? For every disruption reveals something, and if you listen, the song starts losing its grip. Adaptation. Shape the system. Once you understand the pattern, you can rewrite it. This is where you don't just react, you create. You build new loops, new frameworks, ones that actually serve you. Instead of letting the old conditioning run your life, you set new defaults that align with what you actually want to become. This isn't a single moment, it's an ongoing process, a constant cycle of waking up, acting, reflecting, and reshaping. It doesn't end, but that's the point. It's not like you're going to arrive somewhere, you're just going to become something new. The Dead Ones song is a trap because it's passive. It keeps you locked in loops that run endlessly without your input. This loop, the one that we're trying to build, it's active. It's a process of constant engagement with life itself. Finally, suffering, friction, and the alchemy of growth. People think the goal is to escape suffering, to find peace, ease, and comfort. But this comfort is the very thing that deadens the senses. It's the thing that turns people into sleepwalkers. To love your fate isn't a passive acceptance. It's something else entirely. It's about engaging with the friction and the suffering. It's about seeing it for what it is, not your enemy, but the forge in which you are shaped. Hardship reveals. Discomfort teaches. Friction awakens. And if you use this loop, if you start running it with intention, then every difficulty, every moment of struggling becomes fuel. This is how you break free, and this is how you burn brighter. And once you hear the song of creation, you don't go back. And so I'd like you to sing a different song, the one that you choose, the fires of creation. The Dead Ones song is familiar. You know its rhythm. You've heard it in the quiet hours, in the empty scroll, in the bottle, in the noise that keeps you from yourself. But there is another song, a song of becoming, of fire, of presence, a song that does not lull you into sleep but pulls you forward, out of the haze and into something real. And so I leave you with this. What does your Dead Ones song sound like? Where does it pull you? What numbs you? And what would it take to wake up? Not answers, just awareness. No judgment or shame, just observation. Watch, listen, and feel, because this is where it begins.
If today's deep dive woke something up in you, hit the subscribe and ring the notification bell. That way the algorithm works for you, and not the other way around. For deeper tools, essays, and the full relational knowledge map, head to relationalknowledge.ca. The link's in the show notes. If you ever want to talk with me and the growing crew of awake and questioning minds, hop onto our Discord server. I'm in there every week answering questions, trading frameworks, and occasionally roasting my own. Until next time, stay aware, keep weaving, and let the song you follow be the one that you choose. Thanks for watching, and have a lovely week.